Hi, and welcome to Q&A Future Leadership Friday. Today we're going to explore what the problem is with high performance environments where there is not a high consciousness about how to high perform without burning out. Because this is the issue we are seeing in more and more places. The speed is going up, the ambitions are high, we are competing globally, and it creates a culture where more and more people are getting stressed, more and more people are burning out. And also we've had a lot of cases, at least here in Denmark recently, with work cultures that are criticized for being downright abusive. Because when the stress level is high, people, they busy snap, maybe even scream, and you quickly cross the line to emotional abuse. And it requires actually a lot of self-discipline as a leader to not go there, because sometimes even the most conscious leader can feel like going there. So it's natural when you want to create results, and it's even more natural if you want to create results and in the elite group, and you really want to compete with the very best on the planet. Now, I believe that there is a new way of doing things that is not burning people out as fast and as efficiently as we've done hitherto. Because in the last few decades, we have learned more about the brain than we have ever known before. And I'll get to that in a moment. So if you stick around, you'll hear what I suggest. But first, I want to say that I know how it feels to be in an elite culture, because I went to a school in all my childhood, all my school years, including, the baccalaureate, I took from a school that was very elite oriented. We were constantly competing with each other, constantly being measured, constantly hearing how we were not good enough, how we needed to improve, how it was imperfect. And so it was a very workative culture. I cannot remember I can't remember. That's the thing. I can remember how many nights I worked past midnight, getting up early in the morning to do well and to be perfect and to get the high grades and to be able to compete at this elite level. And so I have a personal experience with what it does to people. And today I just published an article which has nothing to do with my personal experience. That's just about the science about high performance in elite cultures. But I can just tell from my own experience that it created a constant fear in the belly, constant fear of not being good enough, constant fear of not measuring up. And what I write about in that article today, which is an op-ed in the Danish business paper Børsen, is that fear is actually blocking performance. So you are really trying to work against your own nature instead of aligning with your nature to deliver better results. And I didn't know that at the time. I just saw what it did to me and what it did to my classmates. I believe 2/3 of us left school. I was very fortunate that I actually had I was gifted in a way that I could leave school, and I had a good environment at home, so I could leave school with, my good marks and But there were lots of people who didn't succeed with that, and I would say the 2/3 that were doing well but under the elite level, they just left school feeling stupid and useless and not good enough, and that shapes their whole lives and the career choices that they made. And I believe had they been in a school where their talent, their natural intelligences had been seen and enhanced and cheered on and gotten the best environment to develop, we would have seen a completely different scenario, and we would have had not 2/3 lagging behind, but maybe a whole school where all talents had been evolved and could collaborate. And unfortunately, we didn't learn that. So I have seen and also felt I have had to work a lot with the performance anxiety, perfectionism. It took me a long time to learn to prioritize my health over my performance. And so it's a long journey for those who like this environment of elite competition. And so when I see that the burn and churn culture is still very prevalent in many environments around the world, I am concerned because I've seen the human cost, and I believe we're losing so much talent to this culture. Now, I will say the good thing about it is if we want to grow muscles, we know from sports, and the brain is a muscle, so we know that applying ourselves and being dedicated and pressuring ourselves a little bit beyond our level of comfort is very good for growth, for empowerment, for always improving and getting to a higher level. So there's nothing wrong with that. The problem is if the pressure is constant and it's never, if it's constant pressure to deliver on deadlines and KPIs, and if there's no space for acknowledgement, for pausing, for shutting off the brain, going and doing something else, being creative, walking in nature, doing sports, whatever, restitution, if there's not enough room for that, it's simply not neurologically smart, and it's not sustainable in the long run. And this is why we see a lot of companies lose talent. So I know all about that because I've received so much of that talent in my leadership programs. Because where do they go when they're looking for something else? They go into programs that teach them, first of all, heal them from their pain of not feeling good enough, but also teach them how to work in different ways so they can maintain their ambitions. They can still do elite work, but in a new way. So I know I know how much talent companies are losing, and it's shocking to me that you really are willing to lose that kind of talent, because the people I receive in my programs are super gifted and have a very future-oriented attitude, very visionary, very creative. I mean, dream employees, but they leave companies that pressure them to the point where they extend, where they pass the growth zone and get into the panic zone where they will simply collapse and cannot deliver at that level. I have had friends in my environment and many in my childhood when I grew up. My father worked in such an environment, and it was a regular thing that he came home and said at the dinner table that somebody had collapsed or got a heart attack or burned out. And also in my youth in New York City, burnout was normal, because you were so ambitious. So, people just exited the job market and just sat and stared at a wall for 9 months and could never go back to the level before. So there's nothing wrong with the ambition to be an elite, but there's something that's not working in the way we are trying to accomplish that. And this is what I wrote an article about today. So the burn and churn culture is probably not sustainable in the long run, because now we have added the accelerator that's called AI. So now we're not only competing with each other and other companies, we're competing with agents, we're competing with AI trying to take our job or threatening to take our job. So the pressure from all sides has just increased, and it will continue to increase. We are on that vertical level of the exponential change. So we will probably see a lot more people burn out. We will probably see a lot more young people refusing to participate in this game. We already see it now. I've written about, for 20 years plus, I've written articles about how the younger generation is simply not interested in participating in this game where you sacrifice your health on the altar of your workplace. So it's not going to last. And this is not to defend low productivity cultures and complacency and leaning back, because that is just as stressful. It's just a different kind of stress. It's frustration stress. And I really don't recommend that either. But there is a way to work higher, not harder. And that we can do if we know how the brain works. And it's so inspiring. There's so many people out there teaching about how the brain works and how to play the right rhythm and the right, use your instrument properly so that your brain and your nervous system is aligned with the ambitions that you have, and that you just work in a way so you work with your biocomputer, not against it. Because working against our biocomputer sooner or later we have to pay a price for that. I'm super aware of that myself. I have already overworked. So I have to really be careful to repair and regenerate. So I use my own medicine every single day. The methodology I am fond of, and that I've seen working, and that has been scientifically proven to work, you can read about on the page I link to below, which is the whole spectrum leadership method, and it has 3 components. First, actually repairing the damage done from scrolling and from information overload, and from simply feeding the brain too much, too fast, too often, so that the brain actually shuts down in certain places because it's just too much. So first you have to repair that, and you have to create more, you have to expand your cognitive capacity. And I've partnered with a UK firm who are masters in that. They've spent the last 25 years developing, refining tools that can help us do that. With a minimum investment, 10 minutes a day, you can actually reboot the brain so it works better and you have more room. I mean, I experience it as more room in the brain. So when there's more room and more order, it's easier to remember things, to focus, to concentrate, to make decisions, to have clarity, to remember why are we even doing this. Second part of this methodology is about the nervous system, because if we are fearful, it absolutely blocks our ability to see clearly, to distinguish what is my ego and what is my essence. Who's running the show here? Is it my autopilot, or is it my wisdom? And we live in an age where we don't only need information and knowledge, we need wisdom, because we are in the most important decade in the 21st century. We're to make the choices we are making in this decade will affect the world we're going to see from here. So we cannot afford to take decisions that are just based on information or knowledge, which is changing all the time anyway. We have to access deeper parts of ourselves where the wisdom resides, and we have to listen louder to what wants to happen, instead of just running and then finding out that we put our ladder up against the wrong wall, and it now has consequences not only for ourselves and our companies, but for the environment, for our nations, for our planet, for our human family. It's like, no, let's not go there. Let's not allow this to happen. So we need to also be very aware of our nervous system, and to eliminate our autopilot reactions that are based on past traumas, past obsolete beliefs we concluded when we were 3 or 5, and that are still running the show when we're sitting in that CEO company and making decisions on behalf of I don't know how many people. We have to be super awake and aware. Who's talking here? Who's making these decisions? Is that still my old wounded self who concluded I have to be greedy in order to survive, or I have to please other people in order to survive, or I have to work all the time in order to survive? Is that still the one running the show? And it is for most parts, if we don't stop and reflect and eliminate. So freeing ourselves from these old thought forms and old beliefs and old ingrained patterns, so we can be open to what really is our true essence, which is such a genius instrument connected to infinite consciousness, infinite intelligence, infinite creativity, always access to solutions to our problems. I mean, it's like magic. So why don't we use that ability? We cannot use it unless we stop and open ourselves up and free ourselves from the patterns of the past, so we become what indigenous people call a hollow bone, who can actually download ideas from the infinite intelligence and execute on it. I mean, a lot of these elite environments have actually been founded or are led by people who do have access to that. But the problem becomes in the execution mode. We need to be just as genius when it comes to how we execute on these ideas, because otherwise the result is either no results or lack of results, or results created with at the detriment of our health and well-being. So it's not easy, and I'm a founder myself, and I'm not saying it's easy, but I'm definitely helped by these tools for sure. So it does prevent that problems become catastrophic and leads to, you know, bad press and bad reputation, and people who are suffering with their health and this, that, and the other. So the third part, so we eliminate those emotional triggers and traumas that are causing bad leadership and that are causing us to not be smart, but be, you know, just on our autopilot. And then the third part is to learn what does it mean to work in new ways. And this is also training ground for all of us, because we're in a completely new era. The rules of the game has changed, and the rules of the game have changed. So allow yourself to get some guidance and then experiment. And do like the scientists, experiment and notice the results. And you could say that in high-performing environments, you don't have the time to experiment, but you could just do it small entities at a time. Say, this group is going to experiment with this new methodology, with new ways of working. And then we're going to see how that works for this particular little example. And then if it works, we can spread it out to more groups, and then we can slowly but surely alter our work culture. It's not more dangerous than that. And the definition, of course, as we all know, of being crazy is to do the same thing over and over again and expect a different result. So something's got to change if we want to stop this burn and churn culture that is costing us the young talent that we are dependent on in order to create genius results. Because yes, AI can replace a lot, but it can still not access infinite creativity, infinite consciousness, not the organic one that is connected to what I would call cosmic genius, universal intelligence, divinity, or whatever you choose to call it. That one cannot be replaced by AI. So if you only have AI agents who are working for you 24/7 and you think that's great, I think you're missing out on something that will actually be what makes you different from the others who are also having all the agents and also having access to all the artificial stuff. So if you would like to experiment with a different way of working, and you can sense, well, that would actually be a relief for myself as well. Know that there are lots of methods that you can use now, and the whole spectrum leadership method for future agility, which I call it, is one, and you can feel free to check that out. I have a report you can download, and then you can read more about it and the science behind, and then you can see if it would be interesting for you or your team. Ideally, your team do this together. I work with a lot of pioneers who are able to make incredible changes in their companies just by integrating these new methods on their own, because they become role models, they become multipliers, they inspire lots and lots of people. But I do think it's smarter to send a whole leadership team and learn as a team, because then you all speak the same language, you go through the same process, and you elevate the collective intelligence of the group. When I've worked with teams, I've seen wonders happening. Conflicts dissolve, better collaboration, better communication, a lot of resilience, a lot of ingenuity. When we run into a problem, we know the methods that can solve it, so we're just going to use those. So I would invite you to check that out. And in conclusion, be aware, elite environments are exciting in some ways, and it does make us grow muscles we didn't know we had, and it enables us to achieve what we thought was impossible. So there's nothing wrong with the ambition, but I am certain we need to change how we achieve that ambition by working in a more neurologically aware way. And this way we can achieve these elite results, but now in a sustainable manner where we don't pay with our health, with our relationships, with our psychological well-being, mental health. I believe this is possible, so let's do it together. Thank you for your attention, and feel free to ask if you have more questions.